Hi everyone, it's Jan from Leadapreneur, your guide to Industry 4.0, and so we're going to be talking about cryptocurrencies right now. So you've probably heard about Bitcoin, and there are literally today thousands of cryptocurrencies out there. So I want to just keep you up to date with what I think is happening in this space and what triggered, I've been interested in this space for a while, but what got my attention recently was the ability of someone to use the Litecoin network, so using Litecoins, to transfer $99 million in a few minutes at the cost of only 40 cents. So that's an international transfer. So that's pretty remarkable, right? Because I work with a lot of banks here in Malaysia, and I was asking one of them, a big international bank, what would that take in your network? And she was telling me it probably would take a few days, and they would take maybe 0.03 or 0.3% as a commission. So that's obviously a lot more than 40 cents. So you're talking tens or maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars just to process that kind of transaction. And so I thought this was an excellent way of kind of showcasing the capabilities of the Litecoin network. And then I was having a bit of a discussion with my friends on Facebook around this, and things started to emerge. And so what I want to do is address some of these, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around cryptocurrencies. And so, one of the things that's often said is that it's about scammers and it's about people stealing money and drug dealers and all this kind of stuff. And, that's true. There are elements of that. But recent studies have estimated that up to only about 4 to 5% of the global cryptocurrency network is being used for these kind of illicit activities. And actually, what you find is the more you criticize cryptocurrencies, the more you realize the glaring errors in today's fiat money system. So, for example, have you heard about this new currency? It's untrackable. It's used by drug dealers around the world, criminals and nefarious individuals, and is controlled by a centralized institution that prints money at will. Sounds awful, right? Well, that's your central bank, right? That's cash. Don't you think that people go to ATMs and use that money to do naughty things? Of course they do, right? So, of course, I'm not trying to say that cryptocurrency is innocent. What I am saying is actually, all currencies essentially experience these things, and that's not something to speak against it. Because actually one of the advantages of most of the cryptocurrencies, not all, but many of them, is that they are trackable. So you have a ledger, a blockchain, in which you can actually track what's going on. So that's a much better outcome and better solution. But I think the real thing that I'm passionate about in terms of cryptocurrencies is its ability to democratize money. Now, what does this mean? Well, communism and capitalism have been arguing for ages about who owns the means of production, right? For capitalism, it's the capitalist who invests the capital. For communism, it's the worker who works the machines to build the solution. And it's been this sort of titanic battle in the 20th century. But what if you could own the means of production of money? What if anyone could make their own money? Because the real reason, from my experience, that poor people are poor is because they don't have any money, right? And that's obvious. Now, the trillion-dollar question is, why don't they have any money? And that's where it gets interesting, right? Because it's not because, people of low incomes don't work hard. That's not true. And it's not because very wealthy people unnecessarily work harder or even smarter, right? There's a number of factors that's very complex, but I'm not going to get into that. But what if you could enable people to make their own money? What if we could actually solve a lot of challenges by giving money to people in a ways that is trackable, that is transparent, and is in some sense managed through a decentralized system? That's really, for me, the future of cryptocurrencies. So, beyond the speculation and the criticism lies a brand new frontier. And the US Federal Reserve, or one of the US Federal Reserves, because there are multiple ones, the one based in St. Louis in the USA, has just released a really interesting study highlighting some of the benefits of cryptocurrencies. And I think this is really where we're going to see cryptocurrencies go. They are an opportunity to democratize the means of production of money. And what this means is that you can start to really address some of the issues of the fourth age, which is, of course, inequality. Right? Countries like the UK today, their Gini coefficient numbers are the same as India, which basically means that the inequality levels of Britain are the same as the inequality levels of India today in 2018. And what's even more concerning is that inequality is rising. And that is one of the reasons why Brexit happened. That's one of the reasons why Trump was elected, because people feel this pain and they're trying to address it. And I think the cryptocurrencies can really address this issue. The second thing really is around efficiencies. The inefficiencies of the financial system today are extraordinary. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, right? What you see in terms of the flash financial mechanisms, at the front end of the customer and the adverts, in the back end, there are technologies that are decades out of date and literally sometimes pen and paper kind of stuff, right? So this makes things extremely inefficient. So for example, know your customer, KYC. Every time you apply to a bank, you have to fill in the same documents over and over again, right? This is retarded. Why are we doing this? Okay, on base using a blockchain and using cryptocurrencies. So we're moving from cryptocurrencies to blockchain conversation now. But the point of a blockchain identity system is that you can enable one identity and seamlessly share that. So let's use the analogy of DNA. Instead of always having to submit your DNA to prove yourself, you create one DNA sample in a secure place, and anyone who wants to know who you are can just access that sample with your permission. So suddenly everything gets a lot easier, right? All your verification all the time. Everything that needs to be checked and double checked can be seamlessly integrated into a blockchain, and by layering a financial mechanism like a cryptocurrency on top of that, you're really able to combine payments and contracts in one go. And that's really what's really interesting about cryptocurrencies, is they combine things that have been traditionally separated. So Ethereum, for example, does this, where, for example, if you were to buy a house and the contract for the house was encoded in an Ethereum contract, you could, in theory, the same time you make the payment, you would receive the contract automatically. It's like the Ethereum creates a lock, and the Ethereum payment unlocks that if you pay enough into it, and that releases the contract to you automatically. No need to get things double signed by lawyers and all this stuff. All of that is gone, right? I mean, the logical conclusion of blockchain is the end of auditing, because there's nothing to audit, really. I mean, obviously this is an ideal, but that's the direction things can go in. So where does that take us to today? You might have been aware that obviously by the end of 2017 there was a massive Bitcoin boom. It nearly hit $20,000, and as did multiple other cryptocurrencies. And then there's been a big crash, really, since January till March. Actually, no, till about early April. It was doom and gloom, and for example, Bitcoin dropped from, let's say, it was about $18,000 to $6,000, right? So you lost 2/3 if you'd invested at the top. And now, there's a bit of a return. And what's interesting about this return is it was triggered by one payment, at which point basically someone bought within the space of 30 minutes at the bottom of the market, when everyone's like, cryptocurrencies are an end, everything is awful. Someone bought billions and billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin basically jumped up by $1,000 in the space of 30 minutes, right? And everyone was like, wow, what the hell's going on? Right? And that really has sparked a resurgence. So it remains to be seen where that goes. But if we look at the macroeconomic situation right now, especially in the West, you have an issue where equities, especially the stock markets, are incredibly overbought. So what we've been seeing the last few days is, even though companies have been releasing stellar results, the share prices are at best stagnant or even slightly declining. So what we're seeing is that people are starting to realize that shares are really overbought. Everyone's bought Google, Netflix, etc., and giving them more money is not going to generate more returns. So what's next? So for me, what we're looking at is the potential of a bear market in equities, and people are going to look for a new space for their money. So that might just be cryptocurrencies. So there is a potential, and this is not financial advice, but I think it's something to be aware of and track in the next few weeks and months, is that there is a potential right now for an extraordinary moment where, just as the bear market takes off in stocks and shares potentially around the world, certainly in the West I think it will happen, a huge bull run can start in cryptocurrencies because the technologies mature and as people start to embrace them at a much bigger scale. So huge opportunities in cryptocurrencies. We'll be addressing it a lot more. Leave your thoughts and comments below, and I look forward to reading them. Thanks a lot. Bye.